this has gone from just simply being irresponsible to downright scary. This has all the patterns of an influence peddling scheme, and it also has the makings of a potential cover-up. I mean, 5 different locations at least. Who knows what those personal attorneys have been doing? And when you look at all the things that our investigation is covering with respect to the influence peddling, there's a lot of connections with the CCP directly to both Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden's Uncle Jim, and Joe Biden.
Well, that was the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer joining me on Sunday Morning Futures yesterday. The FBI is now considering whether or not to search other locations linked to the president after finding more classified documents at his Wilmington home on Friday night. Joining me right now is Wisconsin Congressman and member of the House Judiciary Committee, Tom Tiffany. Congressman, thanks very much for being here. You're on the Judiciary Committee. Where does this need to go?
So there's 2 questions that come to mind for me at this point, Maria. One is, what is this shiny ball that they want us to be focused on at this point? Because it's evident that there's Democrats that want to take Joe Biden out at this point when you look at the events and as they transpire. The second thing is, and Representative Comer alluded to that in an interview yesterday morning, is what's the influence of the CCP? Do we need to go back to the University of Pennsylvania, and do we get more clues as far as the influence? And I would say just one other thing, Maria. I think that Representative Comer's committee oversight and Representative Gallagher's select committee to review the actions of the Communist Chinese in America, they may end up merging at the University of Pennsylvania and the influence of the Chinese, Communist Chinese, with the Biden family.
Well, it's very important to actually examine these dots that we are connecting here, because the CCP is an adversary. They want to overtake the United States as the number one superpower. The aide who actually led the packing up of all of these boxes was recommended by Hunter Biden, Kathy Chung. We do not know if Kathy Chung has family in Communist China and was reporting back to the CCP. I also find it just, amazing that one of the locations, the temporary locations, was in D.C.'s Chinatown neighborhood before heading to the Penn Biden Center. Do you think the CCP understood that there were classified documents that they wanted to get access to?
Yeah, that part needs to certainly be investigated. But let's hark back for a second. Think about Senator Dianne Feinstein's driver for 20 years who had links to the Communist Chinese government. Think about Representative Swalwell, who was sleeping with a Chinese spy. The Communist Chinese are using every way possible to burrow into the American way of life and get information from us, and sometimes perhaps trying to compromise leading elected officials across America. And does it now lead to the highest office in the land? That is the question. We need to continue to unravel those things. And I can assure you the Judiciary Committee is going to do its part. The oversight oversees this. I think there's aspects that the judiciary, we also need to be looking at reviewing this situation.
Well, it's also one of the reasons I asked the question so many times, why hasn't Joe Biden raised the origins of COVID-19 with Xi Jinping? They've had 5 meetings over the last year and a half, and not once do we have any evidence that he's actually raised the issue of origins of COVID-19. What were they developing in that Wuhan lab? Was it a bioweapon? And why was there such a cover-up from the CCP after COVID first arrived? Because we know that they cornered the market for PPE. They they were not upfront in terms of this disease, first off. Your thoughts on why this president refuses to push the CCP and Xi Jinping with all of these meetings he's had with him? We're dancing around these issues. Also, the intellectual property theft that has cost American companies hundreds of billions of dollars, also never raised.
Yeah, contrast this to the previous administration where they kicked Communist Chinese operatives out of the Houston embassy, right, the Houston office for the Chinese. Contrast that to that. But also look at, for example, Taiwan. Look at some of our Southeast Asian allies, Japan and others, where they get short shrift from the current administration and the current administration is deferential to the communist Chinese government. There's so many examples. You list one of the best in the Wuhan lab, but we see so many examples of this. That's why we need to keep digging and find those connections. And I'm hoping that people in your business continue to dig also, because they're the ones that could find these connections also.
Well, I don't have a lot of hope for the mainstream media. They have yet to raise this issue across NBC,
Right.
ABC, CBS, but certainly we will continue to keep a spotlight on it. But then there's the DOJ, and this is where you and your committee, the Judiciary Committee, comes in. What are you going to do about, obviously, a double standard at the DOJ? I spoke with former White House former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures, and here's what he said about the DOJ and how politicized it and the FBI has become. Watch.
We have in the Justice Department and the FBI a level of corruption unprecedented in American history at the most senior levels, not the average everyday worker, but at the senior levels. The corruption's there. It's been there at least since the middle of the George W. Bush administration. It has gotten sicker and sicker.
I know that the GOP has a subcommittee looking at the politicization of these agencies. What can the Judiciary Committee do?
The judiciary should continue what we were doing in the minority, only having subpoena power now. What we were doing in the previous session, where under the leadership of Representative Jordan, we were looking at the FBI being weaponized against parents going to school board meetings. What we're beginning to see the leading edge of their influence with the social media companies. And I think that's really a key place, Maria, is the burrowing into the social media companies that the FBI has done. That needs to be investigated further, because we've clearly seen with the Twitter files what's going on. But what happened with Facebook, Google, Amazon, and all the rest? We need to keep digging on this in the judiciary and show the American people. By the way, this is the continuation of what started in 2016 of revealing what the swamp is in Washington, D.C. to the American people. We need to continue to pull on these threads and show the American people how deep that swamp is and the corruption, because you have to know what the problems are first. The American people are seeing them clearly, and then we've got to put it front and center before the American people to show them we need reform in Washington, D.C.
Congressman, is Christopher Wray on his way out of the FBI, do you think?
I would sure hope so. I see he had a performance out at the World Economic Forum in Davos last week, where he's clearly showing that he does not believe in American liberty, does not believe in American sovereignty, and I believe that he should be on his way out if he's not planning it currently. The rank and file in the FBI have not been served well by their leadership.
All right, we'll leave it there. It's good to talk with you this morning. We'll be following your work, Congressman. Thank you. Tom Tiffany this morning in Wisconsin. Thank you, sir.